Folks, you know you're in for a treat when you hear that tune because it's time for another week of the RecPoker podcast. This is the Chats edition where we have an interview with a person in the poker world. This week, we're going to be talking to Gareth James. But before we get into the interview, I've got to make a few things clear. First of all, we're so appreciative of the support from Mark Prashant over at Website Amp and the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino. We couldn't do it without them. They're our sponsors, and we depend on their support for everything we do here, just like we depend on our premium members. We got a new premium member this week, Tun Hung. So I'm looking forward to getting to know Tun better. I haven't had a chance to meet them yet, but I know that we are looking forward to growing our premium membership like we do week after week. And I hope, Tun, you get a chance to dip your toe into some of the awesome stuff that we have going on over here. Just like every week, I'm joined by the Wrecking Crew. John Somsky, I don't know if you can see there's some comment in the YouTube chat about sound. John sitting in for our normal producing co-host, Chris Jones. And if you don't know what the Wrecking Crew is all about, the Wrecking Crew is the core team of folks that hang out here every week, every month, contributing their time, their expertise. They help create the training videos, a lot of the strategy sessions, the study groups that we do. They help us plan what the future is going to look like for RecPoker. And we couldn't do it without the Wrecking Crew. So if you want to find out more about me, my name is Jim Reid, Bluff Serini in the home game, and at RecPoker Jim on Twitter. While there still is Twitter, may as well go and have some fun over there. You can follow the show at RecPoker as well. But if you want to know more about the Wrecking Crew members in particular, you can go to rec.poker/crew, and you'll see a list of all sorts of Wrecking Crew members there, from the OGs like John and Rob, who we've got on the show tonight, to some of our newer members, folks like Darrow Kearney, Gareth James, Kevin Mathers, Keith Brandt, Kim Kilroy, and we've got a few new Wrecking Crew members coming right around the corner as well. Maybe you'll get a chance to meet them sometime soon. I'm hoping next week. In the meantime, like I say, you can go to rec.poker/crew, or you can listen up because you're going to hear from Rob and John right now to introduce themselves. I know John's working on the audio. Rob, why don't you jump in first?
Well, he's got the audio working because I just heard it. So
nice.
Must be working. Yeah, we've got the. Okay. I'm Rob Washam, and I'm Radman50 almost everywhere.
And I'm John Somsky. I'm Poker Geek MN everywhere, and I am your failing producer for the night.
Everyone has to take a turn screwing up the audio cues here on the RecPoker podcast. John, you have nothing to be ashamed of. Now you're officially part of the team. So yeah, of course, we have to get something wrong on the show every week, or else it wouldn't be what it is. We had a little audio bloop there for some of our live YouTube watchers. So thanks for the comments here. I see we've already got a pretty good showing in the YouTube chat. Phil, Dave, Martha, Joe, a couple others. So thanks for sticking with us. So Gareth James is going to be our guest tonight. Gareth is on a very different time zone than we are. We record these in North America. He's active in Europe, and particularly in the UK. And so we couldn't actually get him to get together for this time of the show, unfortunately. So our YouTube watchers here, we're going to interview Gareth a little later in the week and edit his interview into the show. So you're not going to be able to watch his interview live tonight, unfortunately. But all that means is that we're going to be able to get to our draw that much faster. We'll get to hear about some home game results and some other fun stuff that's happening in the RecPoker world that much faster. You can all get home to your families that much faster. And when the audio version comes out on Friday, you'll be able to hear from Gareth then. We're going to be talking about responding to 3-bets. We're going to be talking about training like the pros, which is one of the new courses that he's been working on. And of course, that YouTube video will be up on Friday as well. So I guess why don't we just let our amazing engineering team, Renz and Roger, do their work behind the scenes. and it'll be like magic. When we come back, it'll be as if we've already had the interview. And through the magic of editing, our audio listeners and our future YouTube watchers will have an uninterrupted program that I'm looking forward to. All right. Well, here we are. I'm so excited to be welcoming back to the show Gareth James. Gareth, you're a professional player. You're a coach. You've got the training site and all the amazing courses and stuff that you offer there. I know you've got some other cool little ideas percolating that are coming out over the next little while. But first of all, I just wanted to welcome you back to the show. Thanks for coming back on the RecPoker podcast.
Well, I appreciate the invitation. I must have done all right on the previous episodes to get this to be re-invited.
Yeah, that's a real feather in your cap. I know this must feel like the pinnacle of your poker journey. You're being re-invited onto the RecPoker podcast. So congratulations.
Well, thanks. I mean, they always say like the first invite is the hardest, but actually I don't know what this is, the third, fourth. I'm not sure. How many times have I been on now?
It's got to be 3 or 4. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, you've got a great way of communicating. I know with all sorts of skilled players, but also your background as an educator, I think really suits you for working with recreational players and players that kind of need to have things really kind of broken down and explained to them on a recreational level. So you've got let's dive right into the new course that you've got out there, Train and Play Like the Pros. And I think that's what everybody wants to do, right? Like we all want to be able to play like the pros. And I think people don't appreciate the amount of work that goes into training like the pros. Can you talk just a little bit about sort of what made you decide to take that approach to it? And then we'll tease out maybe some of the concepts without giving too much valuable information away here on the show.
Sure thing. So there are so many training sites out there. And I think that if you already have a really good approach to training and studying, and maybe we can sort of dissect the difference later on.
Great.
But if you've already got a good approach, then you'll be able to get a lot out of the material that's out there. The major issue that I saw with the training sites that exist is they have a catalog or library of content, but how do you know where you want to start? How do you know where you specifically need to start? And there's definitely this idea of unconscious incompetence, which is, I'm sure you know it, but maybe
for our listeners, please refresh us.
Yeah,
yes.
Maybe don't know what it is. It's basically you don't know what you don't know, right? So this is where a coach can be really helpful and highlight areas for your development. Identify your leaks so that you didn't even know existed. And that's where I think many of the training sites kind of fall down. They might have some, maybe like some ideas about database review, but what we do in Train and Play Like the Pros, and what I really wanted to focus on, was making sure that you knew, or as a member of the program, exactly what it is that you need to focus on straight away. So you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. There's no point you jumping into a course. And, I've got a course, and this was some of the feedback that I got from it. There's just a whole host of videos and content and downloadable materials. And then, but where do you start? How are you going to get the most out of it? And so what we do is we identify your biggest leaks and then point you in the right direction to then consume the content. And this idea, I guess it came from some of the stuff we talked about in Purposeful Practice for Poker, the book I wrote with Dr. Tricia Cardner, where you talk about sort of working out where you're at right now and what it is that you're struggling with that you need to work on. This is more sort of streamlined and focused on pre-flop and post-flop leaks. And then, for example, that you're not opening enough from late position, you're overfolding in the big blind, you're folding too much to 3-bets, you're not c-betting enough in position, you're c-betting too much out of position, you're overfolding versus c-bets, and things like this. So as soon as we know that, then there's a really clear sort of directive as to where you need to go.
So how does someone find out what they need to be working on? Like, as I think you're saying that unconscious incompetence where we don't know what we don't know. I've spoken to a lot of different coaches, and even in my own coaching, I feel like that's the key aspect. And it seems like the easiest way to do that is just by conversing, having a dialogue with somebody. Obviously, that doesn't scale very well. But what are sort of some ways that we can kind of look inwardly and or get some help to look inwardly and see what like, how can we find out what those areas are?
Yeah, so I mean, there are a number of ways. The main way that we look at it in this program is by focusing on your current stats. So essentially a database review, but really focused on specific stats that then can be sort of show you exactly what it is that you need to focus on. And with this review, it's really important that we focus on the big outliers. If let's say that roughly you want to be opening about 50% of hands from the button and you're opening 48 or 52, you probably don't need to work on the button. What we're trying to do here is to focus on things that you're way off. We have players coming to the program who are opening like 26% from the button. Like, that could never be right, even in not across the board. Like, in certain situations, absolutely from the button, you should be opening 26%. Final table, opening into a couple of big stacks. You're a medium stack. There's some short stacks at the table, but on the whole, that's going to be way too tight, right? So this, it's really simple, but sometimes you need it to be spelled out like this. So you go through the process of identifying leaks with a database review, and you're looking for the big outliers. And the most common ones tend to be like, not opening enough from late position, as I mentioned before, overfolding the big blind. So you could go into database and you could look at big blind versus late position. Certainly in Poker Tracker, you can do big blind versus cutoff open, big blind versus button open, and you can just see how often you're calling, folding, three betting, jamming. It might not show you jamming, but calling, folding, three betting would be a good place to start. And you can compare that to some pre-flop charts if you've got access to them, and you can just see, okay, so this is saying that I should defend, let's say, 80% of the time, and I'm folding 50% of the time, so I'm probably not getting this right. So this is an area to work on. Other ways that you can do, I mean, there's lots of different ways. I think getting into discussion, so having a study group and being able to articulate your ideas, and also almost like defend your ideas. So rather than, I've seen it sometimes where groups will kind of just say, okay, what do you do here? Oh, I three bet. Okay, yeah, me too, and then they move on. But that's not going to be that helpful for identifying areas. If somebody said to you, okay, that's interesting, you're choosing to three bet there. Why is that? And then you go, oh, I don't know, it's just a three bet. Well, then you probably don't understand the spot well enough. And that could be an area to focus on. So that you go, okay, I'm three betting here because I'm three betting for value, or I can generate folds from better hands, or I'm getting the blinds to fold. I'm, sort of denying equity to players behind. If I just flat, they have an opportunity to squeeze and things like this. So you're just expanding I guess your own ability to articulate your thought process, but that comes from a deeper understanding of the spot.
Yeah, we talk about on the show quite a bit about how your brain has to kind of interact with the concept differently when you are the one explaining it versus when you are the one just hearing it, and having that kind of active engagement with the concept, putting it in your own words, having to defend it, like you say. It'll either tell you that you don't understand it properly, or it might, lead you to some insights as to why it might be applicable or relevant in this spot. Like, I know in journalism and in some other fields like that, they have the red team, which is basically trying to find the faults in the argument, trying to proofread, trying to make sure that there aren't any errors in the argument before you take it live. And so there's this kind of sense of opposition, but really you're on the same team. You're just trying to provide the best possible argument. And that takes some critical analysis. So that's great. And I think that's something that I think people have a lot of trouble doing without other people around, right? Like without having a community or a coach or even just a forum. Because if we are only ever analyzing our own subjects, our own thoughts ourselves, we're not going to be able to bring that kind of outside perspective. So I can see why that's really important. And it seems to me just intuitively that online players that have a database like Poker Tracker 4 or something, it's going to be a lot easier for them to take this kind of big picture approach. If players are playing more live and they don't have that kind of, the reliable narrator of Poker Tracker 4 that can look at everything, do you think that it's a bigger problem that they just don't have their own reliable idea of what their actions have been and what their leaks are? Or is it a bigger deal that they just have a smaller sample size of available information? Or what are some hurdles when you're working with players that don't have that big online database?
I mean, it's a great question, because we've had so many people come and say, this program looks incredible, but I don't play online. So what have you got for me? And to be honest, at the moment, we don't have anything. It is much more challenging if you're just playing live, because you don't have that database of hands. You don't have a reliable sample for me to look at and say, this is what is going wrong right now. So it's definitely more challenging for live players. I mean, that's when I work with a couple of live players, but it's more on a one-to-one basis. It becomes more challenging to have it in a sort of a group setting, like the Train and Play Like the Pros is a group coaching program, but you're expected to work on your own game, because it's these are leaks that you've identified that are unique to you. But then you come together to, there's, group study, and there's coaching calls, and we've got a great Discord community, and there's opportunities to articulate your thought process again, and sort of share what you've learned and support other people. But yeah, I definitely think it's much harder for live players. Also, just in terms of just having not played as many hands as players who play online. I always encourage live players that come along, and they say, I only play live. Like, should I play online? I say 100%. Like, even if you play super low stakes, like they're a lot lower than you normally would, you're just really trying to get in a sample size. And that's not just because I want you to have a database so that you can join my program. It's so that you actually know that you're getting into a lot more spots and situations that are going to come up very frequently. If you play a live tournament, you just don't play as many hands.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And in our own coaching programs, I feel like when players are predominantly live, when their experience is almost exclusively live, you really kind of do rely on the conversation with them to sort of understand how they think about poker by their decisions, and like going street by street through a hand. But you're never going to be able to take that big picture look at it, because you're always dealing with a series of discrete decisions. So I'll just say, like, that's one of the things I love about our RecPoker home game series, where we play 10 free play money home games every week at different hours throughout the day for people in different time zones. It's a play money series, but everyone who's in it is there to learn. So they're taking it seriously. They're trying to apply things they've learned in their studies. They're trying to put themselves in uncomfortable positions so that they can learn from it. And it's free. So it kind of has you have that ability to put some hands in, to gather a bit of a database, to put yourself in those positions without it costing you anything. And whether it's the RecPoker home league or another home game league or something like that, or just playing 1-2 or micro stakes online, I really couldn't agree more with you, Gareth. That's to be able to get that kind of objective data is pretty priceless when you're trying to decide how to move forward.
Yeah, I think there's a idea of feedback as well. So within poker, the most obvious bit of feedback is whether you won or lost a hand. The problem is that that doesn't tell you whether or not you played the hand well or you played the hand badly. So I do think there's a correlation. This might be like a really big statement for me to say, but live players do tend to, newer live players, not the pros who play live regularly and also have an online background, but newer players who primarily play live, they tend to their ideas about hands are based too much on the result of the hand rather than the whether it was right or wrong. And it's hard to get that feedback when, like, the most obvious bit is whether you won or lost the hand. Like, it's like sometimes it's difficult to tell the brain, even, like, okay, well, I know that I played this hand well, I just lost it, and that's just how it goes sometimes.
Yep, I think it's exactly correct. And it can kind of reinforce some bad habits if we get positive results a few times from doing something, and then, of course, we think this is a winning strategy, right? This is a winning play, but that's just not the way to learn. That's not the way to study. So let's talk a little bit. You mentioned kind of the difference between training versus studying. What do you mean when you say that? And break that down for us a little.
Sure. So I think generally people have this idea that, like, okay, I want to get better at poker, so therefore I'm going to study. And then they want to study and they go, okay, what does that look like? Is it watching training videos and making notes? Is it listening to a podcast? Is it watching a Twitch stream? And so these are, or is it reading a book? these are reasonable ways of approaching study. And I think that sometimes study is really good, but I think training kind of takes things to another level. So training, in my view, in my eyes, is to actually almost put yourself in a situation that comes up, quite frequently. So you end up like using software like DTO or Pio Trainer or GTO Wizard and setting up drills. So you're actually focusing on playing the game how it would be played. And then, you can, because if you were doing any kind of other sport, for example, you would do training drills rather than study. And I think maybe there's this idea within poker where, you can just watch a couple of training videos, have a quick look at your own database, see what's going on. I played a couple of hands similarly to that. Yeah, I think I understand this concept now. But honestly, you don't. You have to then, this is why we have this idea of like identifying what your leaks are. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that you realize you're not c-betting enough in position against the big blind. So you go, okay, yeah, all right, well, I need to c-bet more. Then you can watch some content and you can study and you can say, right, okay, on these boards, this is where I'm going to c-bet more frequently. You can learn about the theory of bet sizing. So where do you use small bets? When do you use big bets? When do you actually do some checking? So you can do all of that and you can study that. But unless you're actually then applying it to a drill, so again, like using the DTO, Pio Trainer, GTO Wizard, any of those software, there's probably other ones available as well, and going, right, let's just do button versus big blind or low jack versus big blind, and drilling 25 hands, 50 hands a day in that spot, then you're not really making sure that you understand it properly.
So am I oversimplifying a bit when I say that sort of like studying is more about kind of introducing new concepts, or like kind of like the abstraction of the concepts, and then drilling is more about applying them, or sort of like the mechanics of application?
Yeah, I think application is the key word there. I think so. Study is almost like the theory, and training is about the practical application. So the actual execution of the strategy that you've learned about. So, being able to access and to access the understanding and apply it in game in real game situations.
I think that's a real gap with a lot of recreational players, because as you've mentioned, there's like a wealth of information out there. There's training sites and videos and books and podcasts. Like there's so many ways we could really inundate ourselves with new concepts and studying. But I think there's a real gap, particularly with recreational players, when it comes to knowing when and how to apply that stuff in real time at the table, or maybe even sort of feeling like there's so many different factors at play here, it's hard to know like which ones to prioritize or which ones are more important for the specific spot. So the theme of the month here at RecPoker this month is responding to 3-bets. And it's a good example of this because, we talk, it's very intuitive to have an opening range, and it's very intuitive to have a 3-betting range. Most of those, an opening range, you kind of decide yourself what your opening range is going to be. And a 3-betting range yourself, you have a sense of what your default 3-betting range is going to be like, and you might tweak it based on who the opener is and what their stats are, or what their tendencies are. But responding to 3-bets feels like it's a lot less clear cut. It has a lot more to do with like who's the player making the 3-bets. And I think it's harder. And often the solution to responding to 3-bets, if it's a problem, is going to be taking some uncomfortable lines that are hard to kind of recreate while you're studying the tension or the stress of like 4-betting light, or having to, choose to fold a hand that you would really like to see a flop with. So when people are dealing with the theme of responding to 3-bets, without going into too much detail right off the bat, I guess, what are some of the things that you're thinking about? What are some of the things that you think recreational players should be thinking about when they're in a position where they're facing a 3-bet and deciding how to respond?
Okay, yeah. I mean, there's so much to unpack.
Yeah, it's a big one.
From a basic point of view, are you in position or out of position?
Yep.
So you get to peel more against 3-bets when you're in position, because you get to act last or second on each street. Position would be the first one. The size of the 3-bet as well is obviously really important from a, even just like an odds perspective. But those things are related, because if you face a small 3-bet when you're in position, you're getting great odds and you get position, and position means that you get to you have a better chance or ability to realize equity. Whereas you're out of position, it becomes harder to do that. So those would be a couple of things. In terms of how recreational players are going to approach it, if they're playing other recreational players, most players don't 3-bet enough.
Yeah,
they're not aggressive enough, which then should lead you to overfold. Certainly, if you've ever seen facing a 3-bet charts, they're actually quite liberal in the hands that you would continue with. But if you look at the 3-bet range, that's also quite aggressive. So if you narrow that 3-bet range, your continuing range gets narrower as well. And then you factor into that as you move deeper into the tournament, you're facing a 3-bet. You should be, when you're out of position, for example, you then should be looking to 4-bet more frequently than you would call, because you get into a situation, where there's risk premiums involved. I mean, right at the start of the tournament, the risk premiums are really, really small. But as you move closer to, as you get closer to the bubble, from the start of the tournament to the bubble, the risk premiums is going to increase. Depends on, of course, it depends on stack sizes and average stack sizes in the field. But what that means is that you don't really want to see a flop when you're out of position. So you then have to play, say 30, 40 big blinds. You might play more 4-bet jam strategies than you're comfortable with. But then you couple that with players not 3-betting them aggressively enough in the first place. And then you think, okay, well, I've got a 4-bet jam. I heard someone say it on a podcast.
Right.
Well, then you just end up jamming like hands, into very strong ranges, which is, never a good approach. So I think it's good to learn what the equilibrium solutions look like, and probably look at them in terms of chip EV, but then deeper into the tournament, you could do some final table stuff. You could do bubble spots. You could do any situation really, and just see what the differences are in strategies, because there's a definite difference. Like for chip EV, you can just peel more. You can just call and play post flop. Whereas as soon as there's risk premiums involved, you end up having to play more aggressively and not go for too many calls. So there's a definite shift in that, and I think it's potentially something that recreational players wouldn't even be aware of. So they might see a chart, they might see a chip EV chart and think, okay, I'm just going to use this all the way until the final table, but that probably isn't going to be the way you want to approach it. But also, chip EV ranges are based on everybody playing like a solver would, right? And recreational players might not play like that.
Yeah, and that's something that we have to sort of reinforce a lot in our own programs as well, that, in most of the games we're playing in, people are not playing GTO. And a great example of that is that they're not 3-betting as widely as the GTO ranges would say. They're also not opening as widely in a lot of cases as the GTO ranges would say. So I think some of our more thinking players kind of actually trap themselves a little by sort of owing this allegiance to balance, or when it's not really applicable, or at least it's not the optimal strategy in times like that. So obviously, when to 4-bet, what hands to 4-bet with, whether it's a polarized range or a linear range, like that's going to depend a lot on who the opponent is. But let's just try and come up with a couple real simple rules for our listeners. Like you mentioned, the kind of hands that you might choose to call a 3-bet with, whether you are in position or out of position. Is that are there certain qualities of hands that make them good candidates for that? Because obviously we're folding our worst hands, we're re-raising our very best hands. Of that middle range, is it suitedness? Is it the fact that it's a pocket pair? Is it the ranking of the cards? What are some ways that we can just kind of give ourselves a general rule for, these are the kinds of hands we might consider calling 3-bet with?
Yeah, so again, it's going to depend in position and out of position, of course. But if we were in position, then looking for hands that do a better job of realizing equity is always going to be more favorable. And you will see more calls when you're in position. So you raise in the blinds 3-bet. you will just see more calls. But then, from out of position, you raise and say the cutoff 3-bets, you'll see more 4-bets. I mean, obviously, it depends on stack sizes as well.
Sure.
I'm thinking like 30, 40 big blinds. That could be like the kind of average or the deepest stack there is deeper on into the tournament. But certainly, suited hands do a better job than off-suited hands. Pairs tend to do very well. But having said that, again, like deeper into the tournament, the value of flooding a 3-bet with a pair just goes down, because it becomes more difficult to continue on a variety of different boards. I would say, like, and then to take that one step further, there's kind of this idea of like, well, how do you choose your 4-bets then? So let's, how do we think about that? And that's something I actually written quite extensively on in my new book. I don't think I've mentioned that.
No.
The new book on the podcast.
No. I'm excited to hear about it.
Writing a new book called The Final Table, and as the name suggests, it's all about the final table. So understanding the different strategies for a final table. And one of the key ideas is, if you're trying to choose a hand, okay, let's say you raise, let's say you're playing 30 big blinds deep, you raise, and it doesn't matter whoever 3-bet, but someone 3-bets, and you're trying to decide what kind of hand do you like that you can 4-bet jam. So you might look at a hand like pocket nines, for example. You say, can I jam pocket nines? And you can then say, right, if I jam pocket nines, is my opponent inducing with hands like 10, with hands that are worse than nines, right? So like 8, 7, 6s. If they're not, I'm not sure I can necessarily jam nines in this spot. So we're then trying to work out, okay, well, what does their induced range look like? Maybe it's like ace queen suited, ace king, pocket 10s. Well, we don't want to shove 9s into that range. Okay, we've got some fold equity on a 4-bet jam because they're going to fold their bluffs. But when we do get called, we're in terrible shape. Mm-hmm. So then we might think, okay, rather than having pocket 9s in this spot, is there a hand that I could shove here that does a better job at against that calling range? So obviously you would choose like aces, kings, queens against and jacks against 10s plus, and you would shove ace king because you can get called by ace queen suited and you're flipping against the pairs, and you block aces and kings. But also there are some sort of what you might class as bluffs, right? So hands that then do better against the pairs than pocket 9s. So like a suited ace, for example, that also then satisfies this idea of blocking continues or blocking calls. So they're calling with aces and ace king, and you've got ace 5 suited or ace 8 suited, ace 7 suited, ace 2 suited. Then you suddenly block a lot of their calls. So there are situations where, on the face of it, 9s is a better hand than ace 5 suited, and yet ace 5 suited is going to work out way better to 4-bet jam than pocket 9s.
That's great. That's exactly the kind of tension that I'm talking about. And I think people get stuck on this notion that, oh, well, they're 3-betting me with a wide range, so I can jam with some of these like middle pairs and hands like that. But the 3-betting range is important, but what's also important is their continuing range, the range that they continue with to your 4-bet. And that's the part that we really have to pay attention to. We've talked about this before. I think there's this kind of tension between, so let's use the pocket 9s example. They're like, oh, well, this isn't a strong enough hand to play post flop, so I'm gonna add some fold equity to it by jamming here. And they might think that they're gonna do that with a hand like King Jack offsuit or something as well. But then there's this sense of, but every time I'm called, I'm in terrible shape. So can you just explore a bit the tension between that kind of the good thing about adding fold equity, but the bad thing about what that means when you do get called? And obviously you're going to get called a lot less when you've got a blocker in your hand or something like that. Yeah. But ace 5, blockers are real, but they still have ace king or ace queen every once in a while. And it just feels like some people just feel dumb or like they've made a mistake because the player just turned out with the kind of hand that they had dominated. So how do we sort of reconcile those two concepts?
Well, one is the majority of someone's 3-bet range is going to be for value, right? So the majority of the time when you go for it with ace 5 suited, you're going to run into it. unfortunately. Like, okay, yeah, we can reduce the number of combos they call with a little bit by having an ace in a hand, but they're still gonna have those hands. There's not a lot you can do about that. I think you talked about it earlier about the sort of the uncomfortable nature of playing in 3-bet pots.
Mm-hmm.
It tends to, to what happens is you run into it, right? Oh, they always have it, this kind of idea. But they're going to have it a lot because they're 3-betting, right? And they're supposed to 3-bet strong hands. So that's, and then we get this kind of, we talked about it earlier about the feedback. Mm-hmm. The feedback is that they just have a very strong range. And I always, I flop top pair and I go with it and they've got aces and I bust. But yeah, I mean, that's going to happen. Now, if that is always happening and you've got a really good sample on that, there could be a chance that you're over continuing. You look at ace queen, for example, in Chippy V would always call versus a 3-bet. And yet deeper on into the tournament, ace queen might work out better as a small 4-bet or a 4-bet jam or even just a fold. There are some examples where you would just raise fold ace queen mm-hmm. off specifically. Mm-hmm. And yet there's this idea we raise and we get 3-bet and you've got ace queen, and you imagine that someone's watching you and you can't ever fold that hand. But you need to move away from that. If it's a fold, it's a fold. And most of the times you're playing online or even you're playing live and you're not playing with whole cards up, you're not on a live stream. Well, no one's ever going to know. Right. So, and it's just you say, I really don't want to have to tell somebody I folded ace queen to a 3-bet because that feels really, really nitty. But there are situations when it is appropriate. And this is what we talked about right at the start about understanding why. So you say, okay, I'm continuing with ace queen here because I'm worried about what other people will think about it.
Right.
That's not a good argument. But if you say, mm-hmm. okay, I've got a fold here, my risk premium is really high, 3-bet has got me covered, there's a few short stacks on the table, we're talking about the final table now.
Yes.
Then folding ace queen is absolutely fine, and there's nothing wrong with that. No one's going to go, look at this guy folding ace queen versus a 3-bet, because again, most of the time they're not going to know unless there's whole cards up footage.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think people, it's good for us to feel accountable. We don't want to just be making whimsical plays without any reason for it. But I think particularly the games that we're playing as recreational players, I don't think we should feel beholden to this minimum defense frequency or I can't. And we even say sometimes just fold and then never tell anybody. Just don't show your cards. Just whatever you do, because you don't want to get that reputation of someone who's going to fold ace queen to a 3-bet, because you're going to start seeing a lot more 3-bets, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, this has been a really good. I think we've already teased out a lot of really good information for our listeners. This is a tricky subject, so I appreciate you taking your time with some of the nuances around it. I'm going to put the link to Train and Play Like the Pros in the show notes here. But if folks want to get in touch with you personally, is Twitter the best way to do it? Or is there an email or go to the website? How do you like people to reach out?
So there's lots of different ways. I think the best way is probably the Facebook group. So we have a Facebook group it's growing every day. I have over 4,000 members now. And if you're interested in getting free strategy advice and chatting about tournament poker, then it's a great forum to join. Plus, I'm of course promoting my programs within this Facebook group. But yeah, you can message me on Twitter, but I think most of my communication comes through Facebook. So just a DM on Facebook. Add me as a friend, send me a message, and let's chat. And I always try to do that with new people coming into the program because I need to make sure that it's right. We mentioned earlier on about, at the moment, not having something for live players. Some players will come and say, this program looks great, but it's not I don't have a database, so it's not going to be right. But unfortunately, we had 1 or 2 people join the program, even though I'd said it's for online players, you need a database.
Right.
Yeah, I've got that. And then you find out that they just play on apps or they don't have the database. They said, I've got 4 or 5 screenshots of hands. Is that going to be okay? And I've got to be kind and say, unfortunately not. When I'm thinking I'm clearly I'm the problem, right? I haven't explained how it works well enough. Right. That's kind of how I think. Whereas in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, am I really do they think I can solve all their poker problems by looking at 4 or 5 screenshots from a poker app? That gets frustrating. But yeah, so that's why I always want to try and chat to somebody new and just make sure the program's right for you, you're right for the program, and that you're going to get the most out of it, because that's what we want at the end of the day. It's not just just trying to sell you this product. This is quite a sort of hands-on. You have access to me and other coaches within the group, and there's more I guess it's kind of like hand-holding, right? So there's more opportunities for support. Whereas I think one of the other things we talked about earlier on about why some training sites fall down a little bit, where they don't help you identify where you're going wrong. They also don't give you that support network of other members, but also coaches in there to help you. And it's not just about reviewing a hand, how did I play this hand, what do you think about this hand? It's about setting up the structures and the routines to improve every day, and to have this idea of okay, I'm going to do some study, but I'm also going to do some training, and making sure, as the name suggests, that you're training and playing like the pros.
Well, I know we've got a couple RecPoker members that are enjoying the course so far. Two of them have mentioned to me specifically that it does feel more collaborative than just going through a video series. And I think that's one of the strengths that you and the team there bring to the table. Because anyone can just line up a bunch of videos and, make notes, and that will better their game. But I think there's an opportunity cost to doing it with some guidance and with some feedback, and really kind of tailoring the training to your own needs. So it sounds like a great program. I hope more people take advantage of it. So I don't think we actually said it out loud. What's the name of the Facebook group, or I'm not a Facebook guy. So is it Gazelle Egg or Gareth James or MTT Poker? What's the name?
None of the above. It's facebook.com/groups/poker profits.
Okay. Poker Profits. So folks, go and check that out. Get involved in some of the free training material that Gareth puts out there. Join his group of like-minded players trying to learn and to learn in that collaborative way. And Gareth, good luck on this final table book. I hope we'll have a chance to have you back on the show sometime when it's coming up for publication, and maybe sneak it into the book study. I know we really look up to you as an author, and we'd love to kind of share your learning more widely with the RecPoker group.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to come back on and tell you all about the book.
All right, can't wait. Well, thank you again, Gareth James, and I'm looking forward to next time already. You have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, I love talking to Gareth James, man. Yeah, I mean, he loves poker. He's so smart about poker. You can tell he's steeped in this game that we all love. And because he has a past as an educator, he really knows how to learn. He knows how people learn. So he knows how to teach. He knows how to reach those parts of your brain that other coaches can't reach. So I won't get into some of the details from our conversation, but I know there's going to be some great knowledge bombs dropped there. So, like we talked about, the theme of the month was responding to 3 bets. The theme of the month coming up in December is playing against limpers. So you will be having a chance to talk to some people about playing against limpers. If you've got any questions about playing against limpers, I'm sure limpers are common in the games that we're all playing. Feel free to drop those in the forums over at rec.poker, get a free account there. Or you can hit us up on Twitter, or just keep on showing up on these Monday night live recordings, because we'll be talking to James Splitsuit Sweeney. We'll be talking to Jason Sue. We've got a couple other guests. I don't want to, until we have their dates confirmed, I don't want to say who they are, but it's going to be a good month for podcast guests in December. So I think people will have a good time with that. So having a lot of fun here in the YouTube chat, I'm happy to see. Yeah, you can go ahead and start typing in the words food bank now. John Somsky will lead us through the book study. John Somsky will lead us through the home game results. And then at the end of that, we can see who's going to win a free month at rec.poker or a $15 coaching credit. And I will say, a few of these coaching credit people have reached out and they've made these arrangements to get these discounted coaching sessions with people on the Wrecking Crew. And I think that's going to be a real feather in their cap. I think whether it's myself or Taylor or Chris or Tim, there's lots of other Wrecking Crew members who are looking forward to working with you, love dealing with recreational players like us that take it seriously. We'll do a prize tonight, and the winner will either be getting a free month at RecPoker Premium membership or a $15 credit on any of our coaching material there. But in the meantime, we've got some home game results to get to with the one and only John Somsky. Take it away, John.
Well, I'm going to start by interrupting myself and tell us that we have some exciting new news in the home game land. We are coming up with a couple of new ways to win pins. We are going to have a silver Lifetime Achievement Award pins. And we have several people in the running for winning the very first one. If you win 50 tournaments lifetime, you will win a silver pin. Likewise, we are going to have a gold Lifetime Achievement Award pin. And we're still working out exactly what that number is going to be, but there'll be a way to win that depending upon how many tournaments. And this can be in any of our series that I track. So the Fun Country doesn't count, Dave, but the rest of them, the rest of them do.
I'm getting a comment here that maybe your audio is still being an issue for some reason, John. I wonder if I just forgot to unmute it. That's probably the case there. Okay, so let's take that from the top.
Let's take that from the top. Okay, so we're coming up with a Lifetime Achievement Award pin. So you win the first player. Well, actually, whoever wins 50 tournaments is going to get a silver pin for Lifetime Achievement. We have 3 or 4 players that are in the running for that really close. So it'll be interesting to see who can win the first one. We are also working on a way to win a gold pin with Lifetime Achievement Awards. And that will also be based upon number of wins in the RecPoker Tournament League. Haven't figured out exactly where that number is going to be just yet. In addition, next year, sometime in either April or May, we are going to have a silver pin winners tournament. So that's going to be once a year. And if you've ever won a silver pin, you've qualified to play in it. If you have not won a silver pin, like me, you have not qualified to play in it. So, and the winner of that tournament will also receive a gold pin. Now, this is a lifetime pin. So you win it once, you get 1 pin. That's it. So if you win it again, then you're just making it more special because no one else can win it that particular year.
Even more exclusive. I like that.
Exclusive, exactly. All right, now on to the tournament results. And we're going to
hold on. Let me interrupt you here, just because you can't be the only person who interrupts you. It's like part of one of the rules around here. So I just want to make sure people understood how cool this is. So if you win 50 RecPoker tournaments in your life, period, you're going to get this Lifetime Achievement silver pin for just gutting it out and beating other serious recreational poker players in the home game league 50 times. And that I mean, that's impressive. Some of the people that have won the most lifetime tournaments in the RecPoker League, let me just say you'll recognize their names, and they are a few of them are approaching that benchmark. So that's fantastic. And then the other thing that John mentioned is going to be an annual silver pin invitational. So no matter when you won a silver pin, if you have a silver pin, if you've won it at any point, then you're going to be invited. It's like the Masters. You get to show up, wear your green jacket, and that gets you in the door. That'll be an annual tournament. The winner gets this gold pin, which is the real mama of all the pins. And then John mentions also this sort of like this gold pin Lifetime Achievement Award, which will be different. It'll again have to do with winning a number of tournaments, but it'll be a different field, sort of a different requirement for that. So this is exciting. We've talked for a while about having some kind of lifetime achievement, some kind of reason to bust out the gold pins, and I think a few people have really proven that they're taking this seriously. They're learning along with the rest of us. They're having a great time in these home games, and they're kicking a lot of butt, and that should be recognized. So I'm really excited for this, John. I think it's a great idea, and I can't wait to see what happens in our Silver Pin Invitational coming up this spring. More details coming.
All right, now we are going to talk about more silver pins for the TOC. Played on November 14th, Ivor Big One won his second Tournament of Champions event this year.
Wow.
I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe this is the first two-time winner of a TOC.
I think you're right. Way to go, Ivor. And just what that means, of course. So they won a home game, any of our home games in the month. That got them an entrance into the Tournament of Champions the following month, which is a very exclusive field. And then if you win that, that's how you get that silver pin. You got to beat all the champions from the previous month. So it's no small feat. The only other thing I'll say about that is we actually record the final table of this Tournament of Champions every month. And in the online review and hang, which is on the fourth Wednesday of the month every month, we play back that final table video, and we all, everyone who's part of it, and all our premium members can get together, analyze the play hand by hand, street by street. So you don't have to be a premium member to take advantage of this. If you make the final table of the Tournament of Champions, you'll get a message from me in the website saying congratulations, and you have won a free month at RecPoker Premium. So I want you to be able to come and join us for our online review and hang, celebrating your amazing play that got you to the final table of the Tournament of Champions. And we also just want to open the doors of what's going on at RecPoker Premium to these killers who are in there making the final table of the Tournament of Champions every month. So if you make the final table of the Tournament of Champions, congratulations. You've won a prize. You're going to get a free month at RecPoker. And I hope you come and join me in the panel on the fourth Wednesday of the month as we review the play in our online review and hang. And if anyone has any questions about that, you can always just send me an email, jim@rec.poker. All right, John, thank you, my friend.
All right, next we have Evil Roy CA. David Westerveld won his 9th nightly tournament of the year.
Look out for that guy.
Jim Reid, some guy won his first nightly tournament for the year.
It's true. It was a Tuesday night OPA.
Must have been a mistake.
Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. Yeah, I did have to get 10s in against jacks and spike a 10 on the river. It was the old 2-outer on the river that got me there. A little luck box action, no doubt.
And then we have Jesse Two Shoes. Jesse won his 4th nightly victory for the year. Now, to continue our talk of repeating, Evil Roy CA, David Westerveld, won his 10th nightly victory of the year on the 17th. And to continue the trend, Jesse Two Shoes, Jesse got the first one is his 3rd. This one is his 4th nightly victory for the year. Then on the 19th, Noah, with several H's, 1291, Noah Anderson, got his 2nd nightly victory for the year. Poker Geek MN, John Somsky, won his first victory for the year.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Not like the Bluffsterini win. That's just amazing. Whereas I think John is a continual winner at this game every time.
It's true. He does like those mixed games. I'll say that.
Yeah, although, as I mentioned, this was my first one this year. So,
now you won something last week, I think, as well. Or is my memory failing me? I thought you were in the winner's circle a couple weeks. Was it for a nightly?
It could be. I have won as of right now. I'll let you know this. You remember how at the beginning of the year I called my shot and I said I'm going to win 10 tournaments because I am half as good as Keck 65.
You did say that.
I said I am half as good and I can win 10 if he can win 20. And that was my 10th victory for the year.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Right. Late November. Well done, sir. Nicely done.
And then to continue our repeat trend, We have Evil Roy CA. David Westerveld won his 9th international tournament for the year. And to keep this in mind, this is 3 tournaments he won this week. That puts him to 42 total lifetime tournaments. So he is only 8 away from that previously mentioned 50 mark. So at this rate, 3 a week, he's about 3, maybe 4 weeks away from getting his 50th tournament. I mean, the stats can't be wrong.
No,
so congratulations, David.
Dave, like, way to go, man. Like, seriously, Dave is killing it this year, whether it's in the Fun Country Opas on Thursdays or the home game standings. He is having a phenomenal year on the e-felt, on the virtual felt. So nicely done, Dave. My hat's off to you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And he'll have to wrestle with Kekik 65 and Megra 44 for who's going to be the first one to make it to that 50, or maybe there'll be a dark horse and someone else will win all of them in a week. And, we run 10 a week. So in that case, it'll only take you 5 weeks to win.
That would get you there.
Okay. Then we have Rossi Q, Roz Quarto, won her 4th international victory for the year.
Nicely done.
And Jimmy Boots, Mike Smurden, won the LPP event, so he can contact Jim at rec.poker for his free month at Learn Pro Poker.
Yeah, that's right. Send that email, my friend, to Jim at rec.poker. We'll get you all set up. You will love all the amazing training videos that they have over at Learn Pro Poker, and great access to Ryan LaPlante and the rest of the dream team over there. So send that email, and congratulations on your Sunday win. I just want to review some of the fun chats that's going on here on YouTube right now. So as usual, Phil's giving me the gears, but we did get some really helpful tips from the crew here. Everyone in the chat helping us get through our audio issues earlier, and some folks having some fun with us, which we definitely deserve. I think my favorite are the ones where we come back from the interview that didn't happen here live. And you're like, great show, Gareth. Best interview ever. Highly impressed with his knowledge. I love that. That's fantastic. And then actually we got a bunch of people. Glad to see Martha back in the chat, says Josh. That's right. Nice to see you, Martha, as always. It's not the same when you're not here in the chat. We got a few more fun. So I will say, folks, come join us on these Monday nights on YouTube. We do the show every Monday at 7:30 Eastern. We always give away a prize. Often we have a guest here live in the booth that you can ask your questions of and get in there. Phil says he's going to win 1 a year for the next 50 years. That's a good way to get to 50. And honestly, Phil, that seems sustainable given your level of play. Let's see, what else do we have here?
I do want to comment that I don't know that we have done a mineral analysis, and I have no idea how much gold is in those gold pins or how much silver is in the silver pins. But I would say I probably wouldn't count on it funding your retirement.
No, and I would say that it's probably not worth melting them down. I won't stop anyone from doing that. But my guess is it's more valuable in pin form. All right. All that fun conversation in chat blew some of the food banks out of order. There's too many other things in there. So, John, thank you so much for that wonderful update. Why don't we listen to Rob talk about the next book study session? We'll start it right now. So, everyone, type the words food bank in right now, and this will be the group that we go for it. All right. So, take us away, Rob. You've got. We just finished up. We had the live Q&A session with Darryl Carney talking about the last.
We had the live Q&A with Darryl Carney. It was awesome. He was with us for about an hour. We had 6 or 7 people in there. We gave away his new book to one of our members.
Yeah, Eric.
I think it was Eric Anderson, if I recall.
It was.
And it was a great discussion. I mean, we had a bunch of questions from the members, and the people showed up and that were able to ask additional questions. We got to talk about his new book, review the old book that we just went through. So it was amazing. And looking forward to the next book is The Poker Brain by Matt Matros. It's improving your process at the table through optimal and exploitive thinking. And if I recall, we've done a book by Matt Matros before, and he also came in and we were able to do a Q&A with him at the end of the book. And he's very magnanimous. He gives away the game plan. He's very magnanimous with his time. He's going to, he can talk about anything and we can ask him any questions we want at the end of this. So starting session 1 will be Wednesday, December 7th at 7:30 Eastern time. I got to say that because it's 7:30 Eastern time. And that's what. So if get the book, it's on Amazon. Read the first couple of chapters. I don't know how far we get. We just kind of go until we do about an hour's worth each time, and it's not rigidly by chapter. It's just however the discussion goes. So we get a bunch of people in there. We start talking about the book, and we start asking our questions from each other. What did you get from this? What did I get from that? And back and forth. And it's a wonderful experience. The best way to read a book that I've ever found is in these book studies, because you get so much just from listening to other people's impressions of what they got out of the book, instead of sitting there in your lonely room by yourself, reading the book, trying to figure it out. You can get input from a bunch of other people that are doing the same thing, and it makes it so much more enjoyable and so much more educational. So join us Wednesday, December 7th for the first session of The Poker Brain by Matt Matros.
That's right. And, Rob isn't doing himself justice there. Every session, he goes and puts these slides together summarizing the chapters that we're reviewing. He really leads the conversation. We find a few rabbit holes. And he's not kidding when I agree. It's the best way to work through a poker book is with friends, with other poker players, trying to share your ideas, share your questions with each other, share your answers and perspectives with each other. I really do believe it's a fantastic way to do it. And if you're hearing this and it's too late to join the first session, as a premium member, you've got access to the entire archives, and we save the recordings of these from previous sessions, so you can go and get caught up and just join us in real time when the session comes around. So it's twice a month on the first and third Wednesday of every month, and I think it's a great way to learn about poker with friends. And I'm just so impressed with the authors that have given us their time. Every time we do this, we get a full hour with the authors afterwards. And this one with Dara really felt like a coaching session. I even got some clarification on, and you know what the key is, take it from me, folks. You can't be afraid of sounding dumb when you're talking to people who know more than you do about this kind of stuff. Like, this is the perfect place to come and ask some questions that you might be embarrassed to ask out in public. I'm never afraid to sound dumb when I'm talking to really smart people about poker. So I asked Dara specifically about one of the concepts that I was having trouble wrapping my head around. This kind of counterintuitive aspect of the bubble factor, and he was just knew exactly what to say to lay it all straight in my brain. And I can't wait to see what we can get up to with Matt Matros when he comes around to talk about the Poker Brain, because I know I really enjoyed talking to him about the game plan. And I think this is a more challenging book than that was. So I really am looking forward to that. All right. Well, here we've got, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And good, Eric, I see you got that download. That's fantastic. So starting with Phil got the lucky number 1 spot. I'll just say it out loud so there's no confusion. There's no controversy. So this is going to go Phil, Josh, Joe, Dave, Eric in order. And if we roll a 6, I'm going to roll a boring old 6-sided die. And if we roll a 6, we'll just re-roll. But 1 through 5, that's who the winners will be. Let's see who it is. It's a 2, Josh Campbell. All right. Well, congratulations, Josh. You are already a premium member, I know, so you're going to get a month of premium membership anyway. But the prize that you're going to win tonight is a $15 coaching credit that you can apply towards any of the Wrecking Crew coaching sessions that are available in there. So send me an email, joshjim@rec.poker, and we'll get you all set up with that. And then I think we'll probably just wrap this baby up. I will remind our listeners and our watchers, if you are a premium member, in about an hour, we record the forums edition of the podcast. We don't do those live on YouTube because we talk a little more between the hands. We set them up a little more behind the scenes. It's not quite as good a live experience as these ones are, as this one is. But our premium members, if you go to rec.poker, right there on the homepage, you can see the calendar of events for this week, and you'll see a recording session for the forums edition of the podcast, which we do basically every other Monday after the chats. And nothing makes us happier than when we get some premium members in there bringing a hand or a forum post of their own to talk about on the air. So I'd encourage everyone to go and check that out. But in the meantime, I just want to thank Gareth James for an outstanding interview that I really enjoyed. Of course, thank you to Eric, Joe, Phil, Josh, Martha, and Dave in the chat. It's nice to see everyone getting involved in there. Thanks to Rob Washam and John Somsky for putting all this together. Thanks to Mark Brashon at Website AMP, the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino. And of course, you, the listeners. We wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for you. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. I'm starting to think we might have to shorten this outro a little bit. I'm getting there's only so much awkward dancing I can do.
Yeah.
See you, folks.
We're out.